Are we climbing the mountain of material success only to find ourselves emotionally malnourished? Or are we ready to unlock the repository of soul and find the true power that lies in the balance of spirit and earth? Hey there, Truth Seeker. Welcome to the Star Kittens community where we discuss 13 sign astrology. Are you in alignment with your divine design? Do you want to master the metaphysical reality? Open the doors of perception. Each planetary body is an archetype, a template, if you will, that helps us interpret human behavior and the world around us. The more awake and aware we are, the more synchronicity will show up in your life. Our focus today is the Cancer full moon. The Sun in Capricorn is embraced by both Vesta and Venus, while Ceres trines with the moon. To help us reach more souls with this important message, please like, share and subscribe. There's a lot going on, so let's jump in. Kia ora, David.
Kia ora.
I am excited about today's reading. There's a lot of feminine energy happening. What is your mood for today? Let's start there.
Mood?
Your mood. Do you embrace the feminine? I know you do, but probably the audience would like to, I think, get to know us better now that they don't get to see us anymore. The feminine energy is very much part of our lives. I see you as someone who beautifully embraces both the masculine and the feminine energies. I'm very blessed to have that. So my mood is excitement for today. We're going to talk about Venus, which we haven't spoken about that much, which is actually interesting because it's one of those planets that women are from Venus, Mars or men are from Mars. So it's one of those ones that a lot of people know about, but we haven't had the opportunity to talk about her today, up until today. So Venus, also Vesta, and Ceres, and then of course during this full moon, we will be talking about the Sun and the Moon. The Sun has entered Capricorn just over a week ago, and people will be like, but that doesn't make sense. Again, you use your night sky app and you point it at where the sun is now and you'll see that the sun sits in the middle of Capricorn. So let's start there. Sun in Capricorn, moon in Cancer.
Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's my mood is buoyant and upbeat, and I love talking about both the masculine and the feminine energies. But on this particular occasion, there's only really one masculine archetype, and that's the sun, and the rest of it is all feminine. So we will tap into my wellspring of knowledge and understanding about these, about both sides. But let's start with the Cancer moon rather, and Capricorn Sun, where we're activating the 4-10 axis, so the 4th and the 10th houses. And of course, regardless of whether you're using the 12 sign or 13 sign system, there's still 12 houses. So we're talking about the 4th house and the 10th house and the natives of that, which are Cancer and Capricorn. So the moon for us is what we call a repository of soul, which means that she is equally intoxicating and exciting as she is frustrating to deal with as an archetype. When you look at the card for the tarot, which is one of the most comprehensive descriptions, visual descriptions of what the moon actually represents, it is not only one of the most complicated cards within the tarot system to interpret, it also sets out just the multifaceted nature of the moon. And for those who are familiar with tarot, and even if you're not, it may pay just to look at the Rider-Waite version of that moon card, and you will see that we have a dog and a wolf or fox type creature howling at the moon, which is a common expression. And when one howls at the moon, it is said to relate to going mad. And that is certainly relating to the water in that particular card, and what we mean by the repository of soul, which is the deep waters of the soul, which are not consciously known to our intellect. In other words, this is where our instinct resides. This is where our soul memories and past lives reside, if you believe in that framework. This is where the Vedics talk about the different types of mind, and they refer to memory, the memory that bleeds through into our reality, and we ask ourselves, where does that memory come from? So in astrology, we're talking about the moon is the repository of that memory, and that's why we identify her as the repository of soul, which means that the moon as an archetype contains all of our knowledge and memories of all past lives or parallel lives that we've had. Now, there are some who are listening who don't necessarily believe in that reincarnation cycle, and that's fine. But for those who do and understand that this isn't perhaps the first time we've been here, and that we are spirit having a human experience, and that we exist in the eternal, in the quantum field, if you like, and we exist as soul and spirit, and part or most of our knowledge that we bring into this life is actually not accessible to us because it sits in the repository of soul, or the moon. And when we look at that tarot card and we see that dog and the wolf howling at the moon, we also see a crayfish emerging out of the water, and the water represents the deep unconsciousness. And when you listen to neuroscientists and people like Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and others, and they talk about how much of, Greg Braden's another one, they talk about how much of what we do as humans is actually conscious. We only operate with about 5 to 10% consciousness, and the rest of what we're doing is actually instinct and coming from what they call the body mind. And so, in other words, we are somewhat robotic and automatic in the way that we respond to things. And some of those deep emotional reactions and deep triggers, our deep fears and phobias especially, reside in this moon archetype, which is why she is, as I said before, amazing and exhilarating on the one side, but deeply frustrating and difficult to interpret on the other. So when psychics tap into our past lives, or you get a past life regression, they're tapping into the repository of soul. That is the memory that you contain within your physical body that sits really, the physical manifestation of this is the gut. And this is why people often talk about the gut feeling. I have a gut feeling. I don't really know where that's coming from, but I have a gut feeling that that's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. So this is the moon as the repository of deep-seated fears and anxieties, but also incredible knowledge, because we've been here before. And the reason I'm taking a bit of time to lay that down before I talk about the moon and the Capricorn axis is because often, as I'll touch on a little later, when we are successful in Capricorn, which is the top of the chart, that's the pinnacle of human achievement, when we think about the arc going all the way from the ascendant to the 10th house, this is the journey of the soul through the astrological chart, and it peaks, the physical peaking or manifestation of the soul's journey, beginning at the ascendant through all the houses to the 10th house, is represented by the 10th house and Capricorn. And that's what they call the MC, or the highest part of the chart. And so Capricorn is often associated with public profile and success. Most commonly, people associate that with a successful career, but I think it's broader than that. It's just where we have mastered the physical world to whatever extent that means, and that may be a progressive process for some. It may be that some are listening have already mastered the physical world and they're thinking about more altruistic and spiritual pursuits in, say, Aquarius and Pisces. But how the moon interacts with Capricorn in this particular context is that unless we are emotionally in touch with what drives us, what's in that repository of soul, the more in touch we are with that, the more successful we will be at mastering the material world. So there's a very strong relationship between the moon and Cancer and Capricorn in terms of the success and how it plays out in our life and how we emotionally engage with the success that we have. I think it's, we had a reading the other day, and I mentioned the imposter syndrome. I mentioned that sometimes people can get to this height of their physical achievement and success in the physical world, whatever that means for them, but they can feel a discontent. They can feel a deeply malnourished. They can feel like, I've got this material success in Capricorn, but I don't have the emotional connection to either my family or the abundance of Mother Earth, or my inner spirit. I feel malnourished. Now, in other words, I've focused so much on the Capricorn ideal of climbing the mountain of success. When we think about Capricorn, we're thinking about the goat and the spirit animal and the qualities that are assigned to that spirit animal, which are that it is a rugged creature, that it has this, it's rugged, and rugged individualism is a word that comes to mind, but it has this resilience, it has this toughness about it. And even goat milk or goat cheese tastes very different from sheep and so on, cow, beg your pardon. So we're talking about this relationship between our emotional connection to success. And when we activate the Cancer Capricorn 14 axis, we have to dwell in the fact that, are we tilted one way or the other? So in other words, are we emotionally so fearful and reluctant to climb the mountain of success? Alternatively, have we climbed the mountain of success without emotionally engaging with life? So those are two of the questions that come up. Of course, we have a water sign on one side in the moon and the earth. That's a beautiful combination, and it's a harmonious combination, water, earth. We have the emotion of the moon and the activity of Capricorn. We have the introspective qualities of the moon on one side and the extroverted, outward focused action of Capricorn on the other side. We have achievement in Capricorn and we have presence in the moon. We have the withdrawn Cancer energies on one side and we have the overt and dominant energies of Capricorn on the other. We have the power of Cancer on one side and we have the force of Capricorn on the other. And some will say, but isn't power and force the same thing? Not as I interpret it. So force would be using a jackhammer to get something done, whereas power would be moving the elements around in the quantum field. In other words, using the power of your emotion and your will, but not actually doing anything. So sending a ripple into the field to crack the nut, metaphorically in this case. One is the physical act of cracking the nut. The other is imagining how it might be done and sending that ripple into the field and allowing it to take place. One is going out and getting, one is waiting for things to happen. So there's such a contrast between Cancer and Capricorn when we look at it. But whichever side you tend towards, the key about a full moon is to find the middle. It's to find that middle ground. And it's to be balanced emotionally, and it's to be balanced in the material world and in your pursuit of your career and material success. And it is only in that middle space that you will find the true peace that is available to you.
And normally we talk about the push and pull during a full moon because they are at opposite sides of the chart. But what is beautiful during this full moon is that we have feminine energy embracing the sun. So let's start with what is on one side, and on one side is Vesta. So just to give a context, during this full moon on the 2nd of February here in New Zealand at 11:09 in the morning, we have the sun at 13 degrees Capricorn, and just on one side we have Vesta at 11 degrees Capricorn. So how do you see this Vesta energy embracing the sun?
Yeah, given where the sun sits in the middle there, straight away, just as a bit of poetry, I would say that the sun sitting between Venus on one side and Vesta on the other is the thorn between two roses. And I think that presents to us an idea that the normally overt, powerful, aggressive energy of Capricorn Sun is very constrained at this particular full moon. Now, the Vesta energy, without going deeply into the story of the Vestal Virgins from the Roman pantheon, effectively as an archetype, what Vesta represents is withdrawal and introspection. And it is the process of restoring our inner fire. And the inner fire in this context is the connection with spirit. So Vesta is reminding us that no matter how successful we are, no matter what's going on in your public life, it is a time at this particular full moon to reflect. And if your inner fire has gone out, then it's time to reignite it. And the process of accessing Vesta in this context is meditation and mindfulness, whatever that means for those who are listening. So Vesta is about reflection. It's about going into the idea or the concept of reconciling our actions in Capricorn with our emotions. And it's about accessing our inner world and making sure this is the representation of the balance that I was talking about before, is that Vesta, inner fire, and our inner world, Vesta meets the outer world. This is the balance point. This is the pivot point between the sun and the moon in this particular instance, because of course the story of the Vestal Virgins who protected the fire of the Roman pantheon, the Roman Empire always had a fire burning, and it was these Vestal females whose job was to protect that fire, because the Romans knew that if that fire went out, that was a sign, as they ascribed it, the fire to the gods and to the spirit. If the fire blew out, then that was the end of the empire. And it was interesting that when you think of the mythology and the history of Vesta, why a patriarchal society chose females to protect that fire. So make of that what you will, but deepen the patriarchal top-down command and control system that was the Roman Empire that spread its tentacles everywhere. It was an aggressive Capricornian energy. It went out and it conquered, and it was a very high profile. And individuals within that Roman system were very Capricorn insofar as they were the rulers and the chiefs, kings of the hill, as it were. But yet they paid homage to and respect to these young ladies who were protecting the fire, which represented the connection to spirit. So even amongst all of that material conquest, they recognized that it was nothing without spirit. It was nothing without the fire representing spirit. So Vesta here is reminding us that our journey toward the top of the hill in Capricorn should always be tempered by we should remain cognizant and emotionally connected to both our soul but also to spirit. And I draw a distinction here between soul and spirit. Some, again, like power and force, they juxtapose the two, but actually soul and spirit are two different consciousnesses that exist within us. If soul represents our memory and our manas, as they call in the Vedic system, our memory of past lives, that sits in our gut and in our stomach, and this is why they call that the second brain. the reason it's called the second brain is because you're accessing past life experiences of having gone through whatever it is that you're going through. And often those deep-seated feelings are coming from the soul, communicating through the gut, through the physical body, and reminding us to either go inward or to resolve something. And then we have spirit, which we don't access through our gut. We access that through our heart and through our third eye. And so that says to me immediately, if you're looking at this as a construct, that spirit exists in a different realm. He, she, it, the fire of spirit exists in a different level or dimension of consciousness than the soul does, even though the soul is part of spirit. But spirit is actually different to soul, and there's a distinction. So what we're talking about here with the moon is accessing the soul, and what we're talking about with Vesta is accessing spirit. And it's that combination of the earth, the body, the spirit and the soul that is what completes us. This is what gives us meaning. This is what allows us to proceed through life, through soul's journey, and to get to the end. And hopefully we are in alignment with our divine design when we're doing that. And part of coming into alignment with your purpose and your power and your divine design is understanding exactly where your Vesta is in your 13 sign chart, exactly where your sun and your moon are in your 13 sign chart, exactly how it is configured so that you can respond to what we are sharing here and understand that if you are a Capricorn but you don't realize it, you may be feeling a need to introvert right now. You may be feeling a need to withdraw and not quite understand where that energy is coming from. It's coming from the moon and it's coming from Vesta. But if you're not in alignment with your divine design, you never quite put your finger on or your thumb on or understand exactly where those inner yearnings are coming. So if you are successful, if you are on the path of success in Capricorn, then the Vesta and the moon energy are saying that don't do it at all costs. Remember spirit, and remember that you have a soul, and that everything that we do is recorded in our soul. Everything, whether we're aware of it or not, our soul keeps the records of everything. Every thought, every action, every interaction goes into our subconscious and is deposited there to be picked up later, maybe in this life, maybe through meditation and mindfulness. And it's also used by spirit to help develop us and evolve our consciousness as well. So there's a very strong relationship here between the soul and the moon and the Vesta fire, and of course the Capricorn, which is the pinnacle of human achievement and success in the material world.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm glad that you just gave us a brief overview of what that archetype of the Vestal Virgins, what that stands for. So let's hop to the other side of the sun, where we have Venus sitting at 19 degrees Capricorn. It is also this softening energy of the sun, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not uncommon to have Venus and or Mercury conjunct the sun at any one time because they travel so closely to the sun. When you look at the arrangement of the planets in the cosmos and the way that these inner planets of the sun, of Mercury and Venus, they appear often when you see a very bright star in the morning or late at night. It may be either Venus or Mercury. So Venus is a beautiful energy insofar as this reading goes, is because what she is saying here on the other side of the moon. So we've got spirit on the one side of Vesta, soul on the other side of the moon, and Venus on the other side of the sun. So that's why I say that maybe the sun here is the thorn between two roses. But Venus is saying enjoy the fruits of your labour. Celebrate your success. Indulge if you want to. Go and have a nice bottle of wine or a nice meal, or maybe it's something as simple as taking your shoes off and walking on the grass, or going for a swim in the sea, or smelling some roses, or one of the things I like to do that is very Venusian, sort of earth grounding, is we have the grass outside, and of course it's summertime here in New Zealand, and when we have enough flowers and clovers out there, when the lawn hasn't been mowed, it's been unmowed for a while, for a week or so, about 10 days, you get a lot of bees. And it's fascinating just to get at their eye level and just watch these creatures. And this is what I'm getting at, is that we have our success and material success doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens because of Mother Earth and Ceres, who we'll talk about next, but the Venus energy is often related to abundance and success, and we are physical, so it is time to, regardless of what's happening, it is time to be physically connected. So I've talked about the connection with spirit, the connection with soul. I'm also now talking about the connection with our bodies. So we have all of those elements in play here. Venus, of course, is the ruler or guardian of Taurus, which is a very grounded sign, and Taurus is part of the Earth trilogy, of which we also have Virgo and Capricorn. So drop into your heart space, drop into your body, get a massage, have a bath, connect with your family. That's the Cancer energy as well. Connect with your loved ones. If it's cold and wintry, snuggle up under a fluffy blanket. Have a beautiful coffee with cream in it. Whatever it is, whatever you do to tap into that combination of spirit and soul and body, that synergy of the three, is what Venus is saying. It's okay to emotionally celebrate and almost have a little bit of, this feels pretty good, because the earth experience we're having is pretty good. It needn't be all doom and gloom. There are lots and lots of beautiful aspects of being on this earth, and Venus is really just reminding us to, even if it's, regardless of the season, appreciating nature, but appreciating her as well, reflecting, like you say, look at your night sky app and find out where she is. And it is spectacular. If you're an early riser and it does happen to be Venus, just gaze on her, look out. I mean, it's just amazing when the sun hasn't risen and engulfed her light. That's all you see sometimes. We have a pretty amazing view here where we can see out over the horizon, and often the framing of what we see is happens because Venus can sit just above the horizon, whether it be mountain range or whether it be something else, and it's a sense of connection with that part of us that we sometimes forget in the hurly-burly of success, when we're racing to achieve, when we are mastering or trying to master the physical world. We just need to, what's the saying, take some time to smell the roses. And that's really what Venus is all about at this full moon.
I love that. Thank you. And a beautiful segue into the next feminine energy that we will talk about today. So we have the sun on one side with Vesta and Venus, and then on the opposite side we have Cancer, the moon in Cancer at 14 degrees. And the moon is making a trine, so a trine is a favorable aspect with Ceres, and Ceres, Ceres, is sitting at 23 degrees Pisces, and Ceres is the archetype of Mother Earth. So definitely stop and smell the roses, but what else at this time can Ceres tell us?
Well, there are actually, it's interesting with Ceres because Halmir is another that's considered to be Mother Earth as well. So depending on, Halmir in the Hawaiian pantheon, if you like, they assign the Mother Earth archetype to Halmir. who we have talked about as well. But in this particular reading, Ceres is determined to be the Mother Earth energy. And really it's just coming back to what I wrote down when I was reflecting on this, is our emotional connection to abundance. And if I was to go in two directions here, on the one side of this is that, as I mentioned right from the outset, often people, when they're looking to master the material world, when they're going through the journey, the Capricorn journey to the top of the hill, they can reject and not be connected to the fact that it is all the resources that they have came from Mother Earth in some shape or form. She was at the bottom of all of it. The car that we drive, the phones that we use, the television we watch, even the buildings that we go and work in, the lights, the roads, all of it, it's all coming from Mother Earth. And yet the shadow side of Capricorn pursuit is that we lose our connection with Earth. We become separate from her. We have this idea that, you know, I can accumulate a whole bunch of stuff, which may be your thing. There's no judgment here. But being grateful for where it came from and taking time to just say thanks to Mother Earth for the abundance. And that is very important, because we've touched on here making sure that you're connecting with spirit through Vesta, with your body through Venus, with your soul through the Sun. But now we're talking about she who sustains us all. Without Mother Earth's blessing and support, we have nothing. Reflect on the roof over your head. Reflect on where that power and electricity comes from. Sure, it might come from man's creation, but ultimately it all starts with Mother Earth. She is foundational. She is at the root of everything to do with the Capricorn material world. So her message is simple. Be emotionally connected to her. Be emotionally connected to abundance. And she's also saying, if you don't feel abundant, if you don't feel connected, then perhaps there is a yearning in your soul to slow down the pace, to change your focus, to perhaps it's because you are so busy with your head down, focused on the material world, that you've forgotten the rhythms of life. You've forgotten to put your feet in the sand. You've forgotten to appreciate all that she gives us. And again, without overdoing this, Ceres's message is very simple. We need to be connected to the earth. We need to be thankful for what she gives us. And we need to be particularly mindful that without her, we are nothing. There is a lot of abuse that happens, unfortunately, under Capricorn's achievement. When we look at the big picture of the collective achievement of Capricorn, which is the cities, the big buildings, the huge bridges, the way that we have conquered Mother Earth is all part of material success. And in the Western world particularly, where we enjoy the fruits of many of modern lifestyles that perhaps others on the planet don't have, again, from a big picture perspective, we have to think about there's always a cost to the material success. So whether you're reflecting on the big picture, the community success, or whether you're reflecting on your own success, it's the same thing. This has all been underpinned by the beneficence and the abundance and the loving kindness and the generosity of Mother Earth that allows us to step forward and to keep going. She could, of course, just make it very difficult for us, and on occasions she does. And so what that says is we need to respect Mother Earth. We need to respect that, yes, she is a loving mother. Yes, she is very kind and generous towards us, but she can also be, when pushed, harsh and unforgiving, and she can lash out and remind us that we are here as guests on this planet, not the owners or rulers of the planet, but we are guests, and we are guests at her behest. We are here because she allows us to be here. She could wipe us off the face of the earth if she wanted to, but clearly that's not what she wants to do. Ceres wants to have a harmonious existence with us, and that requires us to have the right attitude and an attitude of gratitude, and to accept that without her we have nothing in terms of the Capricorn material world.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you so much for highlighting those important things. And Mother Earth has been important in my life always. I've always enjoyed being out and just connecting, watching the bees, but also like when it comes to throwing things away, I much prefer to reuse and recycle than heaping it all in a massive tip.
Well, you love to be out in the garden as well.
Absolutely.
I see you out there, and it's very important to you how you fuse your energy as spirit with the material world.
Yeah, very much. Thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah.
So if we have piqued your interest for you to find out what your divine design is for this lifetime, hit us up for a chat and enjoy this full moon. See how you can connect with your spirit and with Mother Earth during this full moon. Thank you so much for listening. Ngā mihi.
Namaste.
Until next time.